From mystery novels to thrillers, Oakley Dean Baldwin authored 30-plus books. But out of his entire body of work, the true crime story of his own relative, Pauline Pusser, hits especially close to home. And how are you related to Pauline?
Well, I'm distant cousins to her. My grandmother and her father, Jack Mullins, were raised together up in Hays-Eye, Dickinson County, Virginia.
When you think of Pauline, what word comes to mind?
She was a very giving person, a very loving person.
Pauline was murdered in an ambush meant to take out her husband, Sheriff Buford Pusser.
The couple was driving along this highway when the assailants pull up and start firing, killing Pauline and injuring Buford. This sign memorializes that tragedy. That's the story that has been told here in McNairy County for decades. But Baldwin started doing some research, and he says he found some red flags. He's not buying this story anymore.
We were shaking our head at every turn with the evidence that we were finding. Nothing was making any sense. A lot of red flags. Now you have the high sheriff whose 36-year-old wife gets murdered, and you don't do an autopsy on her. That was really strange to me.
Baldwin would know the proper investigative steps. He spent decades in law enforcement working real-life crime mysteries. But the one about his own cousin wasn't stacking up. For example, the day Pauline was killed, she was out on a service call with her sheriff husband when the killers ambushed the car. But Baldwin says the patrol car, a key piece of evidence in Pauline's cold case, was allowed to be put back into service at the sheriff's office after her death.
I think they repaired all the bullet holes in the glass and repainted it. And it was actually put back into service for deputies to drive. And that's something that's really odd. If you haven't solved a crime, or if you don't think someone's a person of interest, you don't release the evidence like that. So that was a big red flag when I read that. I thought, well, who in the world would release that car?
Baldwin calls the investigation back then shoddy and says the TBI is a more professional organization today than it was in 1967, when politicians had more sway over investigators. Over the years, many have speculated that Buford killed his own wife and covered it up. The TBI recently exhumed Pauline's body in hopes of solving this case. What do you think happened?
Well, that's the $64,000 question. I think that's why we're all looking for the autopsy results. I feel like that's either going to clear up a whole lot or it's actually going to stir up a whole lot.